Hi, this is Marissa, and I'm here to talk to you a little bit about chaos magic. Um, Chaos magic isn't like a tradition. It's not like a path that you follow that's going to have certain guidelines. Like, it's not like being a druid where they're going to have like standards. It's more like being eclectic. It's not so much a tradition, but it's more like an approach to magic, kind of like hoodoo. But hoodoo has things that you can very specifically point to and go, well, that's root work, that's hoodoo. Where chaos magic is very, very diverse. In fact, if you ask two practicing chaos magicians what they're doing at that current time, you're very likely to come up with two uniquely different answers. And that's because of its diversity within its practice. Chaos magic was born in the 1970s. There was a group called the Illuminates of Thanateros, which was born off of Crowley's group. And it kind of has similarities with Discordianism. And I know that some chaos magicians, not all, but some of them are actually atheists. So we're going to talk a little bit about the principles of chaos magic. And what that entails and what chaos magic is. So the first principle of chaos magic is the avoidance of dogmatism. So the whole thing about chaos magic that they have in common is that they hold temporary beliefs. They use beliefs as a tool. So the amount of faith that I have in a magical working will directly affect its work, its ability to do what it needs to do. And if I don't have faith in it, then that's going to negatively affect whatever I'm doing. And there's a formula for this. It is actually magic equals, let me see if I can remember this. Magic equals gnosis times magical link times 1 minus awareness times 1 minus resistance. And that should give you the formula to how effective your spell is going to be. And there are some other formulas that I saw in there, but that was one that stood out to me, and that's the one that I wanted to impart today. They also have this nifty little saying that's like, everything is real, or I'm sorry, nothing is real, everything is permitted. So basically, they're viewing the world as an illusion. And it's kind of like The Secret, but not like The Secret. Some people say that The Secret kind of splintered off from chaos magic and all that other stuff. But basically, it's the like attracts like theory. What you have in your mind is what you bring to you. And if nothing is real unless it's perceived, like think Schrodinger's cat. So if you're not perceiving it, then it can't be real, or you can't. Your world is what you create, essentially. So it's also important to be able to acknowledge or to realize that it's okay to be wrong. Nothing is true. The second principle is that personal experience is paramount. So try everything that calls to you, and the only two things that you need to be a chaos magician is yourself and time alone and a notebook. Because one of the big things about being a chaos magician is that you need to take notes. You need to write down your experiences, and you need to write down what works. That way you're not just kind of viewing everything that you do through your nostalgia lens. So do take notes whenever you're doing something. Treat it as an experiment. But of course, you have to put faith into that experiment. You have to use your belief as a tool. Otherwise, that's going to mess up your equation. Now, I remember back in the day, I was called a Pokemon pagan myself because of the way that I would pick and choose different pantheons, very quickly move on to the next thing, and I just kind of wanted to suck everything up. And that's kind of like what chaos magicians do. They ask a lot of questions, they practice a lot of different belief systems, and they take what's valuable to them and they leave the rest. And because of that, they kind of get a reputation for being a jack of all trades and a master of none. And that might be true, but to combat that, the third principle of chaos magic is technical excellence. And the reason because of that is because, like I said, a lot of people will. One of the main criticisms of chaos magic is that it's stagnant or sloppy, or that the people, they aren't learning as much. They're not getting an in-depth knowledge, and that's probably true. Like, if someone has been practicing Norse for 10 years and is essentially an expert on Norse, they've been actively practicing and researching and keeping up with the standards, then they're probably going to know a whole lot more about that one particular area of expertise. But the chaos magician may still use attributes that might be Nordic. And you may call that cultural appropriation, and it may just be. But, like, it's been my experience that nobody owns truth. So if you're going to say that your religion is true, then your religion is... Well, then again, nothing is true. Everything is permitted in chaos magic. And basically, you just do your best. So where... I feel like the constant change of beliefs, religions, perceptions, it kind of gives an individual a worldview of how everything's done. So they may not see, when you zoom in to the microcosm, and you can see the unique differences in every single different path and sect and cult, kind of like how Wicca blankets them all together. Chaos magic doesn't necessarily blanket them all together, but it borrows from all of them, and it recognizes the similarities in all of them. The symbol for chaos magic is an 8-pointed star. Kind of looks a little bit like the Wheel of the Air, except the stars have like arrows coming up the top like that. So in all directions, you got 8 little arrows coming out of a black ball, and that's the chaos magic symbol. I'm sure you can imagine it. I'm not video editing this because I am recording it on YouTube, and it does not give me the option to video edit it. I suppose I could save it and edit it and then re-upload it, but I'm not going to do that because I've got other shit to do today. I've got to cook dinner. I've got to meet my friend. And yeah, that's all the explanation that you need. The fourth principle of chaos magic is deconditioning. So that's basically like where I'm actually going to read a quote, okay? The chaos paradigm proposes that one of the primary tasks of the aspiring magician is to thoroughly decondition oneself from the mesh of beliefs, attitudes, and fictions about the self, society, and the world. Basically, figuring out what truths are detrimental to the self. So what things are you holding on to? What political affiliations? What mindsets? What things have happened to you that have influenced your belief that aren't necessarily fair? How can you alter your beliefs to mesh in with what you want to do, who you want to become? The fifth principle is diverse approaches. So basically, and as I said before, traditional magic approaches magic in a system, where chaotic magic is an eclectic approach to development. So you choose from any available magical systems, and no 2 chaos magicians will have the same belief system. And then the sixth principle is gnosis, which is basically the connection that you have with the divine, with the magical, mystical world. So they have 2 altered states of consciousness. Now, there are like 4. You get the beta, the alpha, the theta, and the delta. But they only describe like the 2 different kinds, not the 2 different types. So they have inhibitory and excitatory. This word's gonna trip me up, but it's exciting-atory. So like, where the inhibitory meditation is like passive, it's doing your yoga, your meditation, your zen, where the exciting one is like chanting, drumming, doing the spiral dance around the circle, getting your blood pressure up, building that energy to release it. I've also found a lot of stuff about furious masturbation. A lot of people use sex magic in order to charge, because that sort of magic is supposed to be like the most energetic or the most influential or the most I guess, deep and unique and individual to the person. So one of the things that chaos magicians sometimes do is they create sigils, and they would create the sigil in thinking about a particular thing. They'd hide the sigil, and then they'd charge it with energy later by masturbating on over it. I would find it more appealing to me to charge the symbol while I still knew what it meant. And I can't imagine forgetting what the symbol meant if I took the time to do it, unless I'm just making so many symbols that I just don't know what's what anymore, which is a possibility. So like chaos magicians kind of have like a little bit in common with Discordianism. Discordianism kind of has like a little bit in common with Rastafarianism. It's common with like modern day Satanism. We're kind of like, they have this humor about them. They're like anti-religion. You know, it's like, but chaos magicians, some of them, because you can't really generalize with chaos magicians, some of them are the real deal. Some of them do believe. Sometimes. Some of them do believe sometimes, I guess. This is an abstract concept here that I'm contemplating to you. So the luminaries of Thanateros, they had their neophytes. And in order to be initiated, they would ask their neophytes if in their mission of seeking the truth, he is ready to accept the possibility of the end of his journey. And depending on that answer, would decide whether or not they would initiate him. So that's something to think about. They believe that there's no supreme truth, only possibilities, and that nothing is sacred by itself. Another common practice of chaos magicians is to create thought forms. They don't call them thought forms, they call them egregores, but I call them thought forms. That's how I learned how to make them, and I'm sure that when you talk to different witches and you'll find different names for the same thing. One of the things, the last thing that I wanted to talk about was how I'm sure some of you guys know about like high magic, hermeticism, the Kabbalah, and all those other like really rigid sort of forms of magic where you have to remember like so many Sephiroth and the different paths that they take, or like when Venus is at 15th degree so you can put your water out in the moonlight. Basically, chaos magicians, and this is the one thing that I really do truly like about them, is that chaos magicians believe that too many correspondences add unneeded complexity. Basically, the term is that if the map ellipses the territory, you're not going to be able to find out where you're going. So I found that to be exceptionally true for a lot of people, because not everybody has time to sift water through ash that they burnt and then leave that in a cupboard for 6 months and then mix that with this when Virgo is in retrograde. I don't know. It just gets really complicated. And a lot of us need more practical magic, which I feel like things like chaos magic and hoodoo, magical practices, not so much magical traditions, kind of like give us. They take away not so much the mysticism, but they take away the rigid structure. And that's why I feel like it's important. And I feel like different practices are important to try and to attempt, and that you do need to keep an open mind. So if there's any chaos magicians out there or chaotes, and if I've said something wrong, you can go ahead and comment down below and let me know. I'd be super excited to hear from you. Thank you. Bye-bye.